Did you know that axolotls are in fact just salamanders, and they can turn into a salamander? But they're also subject to some of the worst mistreatment in the pet trade, and we'll talk about it. It gets bad. Axolotls are adorable. They're an amphibian that never reaches their adult life stage, most of the time. They're only found in one particular area in Mexico, but what's interesting about this area is that it's very low on iodine. Without iodine, they can't make enough growth hormone, and that's what they need in order to metamorphosize. They're not genetically distinct from other salamanders. They are salamanders. So far, nobody has been able to point to something that makes them special, aside from, tending to not grow up. An interesting note on these guys: when they do morph into the adult form, they also lose their incredible regenerative abilities. So spending their adult life as a baby may give them an edge in their environment, so it may be a local adaptation of the tiger salamanders. Now, the axolotls that are in the pet trade are descended from laboratory varieties. All of them have a little bit of tiger salamander DNA in them from hybridization in lab. So some people like to point to that for the reason that they sometimes morph, but I don't really buy it. I'm still in the camp that it's iodine. Oftentimes, people's axolotls may metamorph all on their own. If provided with more iodine, they'll look more like a salamander. That's an albino one. It's kind of weird to see a morphed axolotl. Now, because of habitat destruction, axolotls are virtually extinct in the wild. They're critically endangered. I've seen some estimates saying that there are as low as 50 axolotls in the wild, maybe up to 1,000. The reason that axolotls still exist is the pet trade, and this is often touted as something that is fantastic. We brought axolotls back from the brink of extinction. Except there are problems. Now, axolotls are weird little creatures. You can genetically edit them, you can add fluorescence plasmids, and they'll glow. There's a wide variety of colors available: blue and green and red, but green is by far the most common. At least that's the one I see most often. Scientists figured out that if you transplanted tissue from another axolotl in the more embryonic stages, they would just grow with it. This was intended as a scientific experiment, however, pet breeders got the word. They started doing these transplants on young axolotls. They are quite striking. Without the skills of a researcher, they just end up being harmed. You can see this one has had parts of its tail replaced and it didn't grow correctly. And some, like the eye transplant, often fails, blinding them. That's what somebody tried to do here. And you can see it's Buddy here who got his eye. These are candy corn axolotls, where they've taken a middle segment and moved it. And that's just to do with people wanting to get exotic-looking pets. Axolotls are not a beginner's pet. They need a cooler in their tank. They also need extremely good water quality. I've heard people say that if you have a 20-gallon tank, you should have a 30-gallon filter. It is great that these little guys have been brought back from extinction. I'm happy for that, but at what cost? Fish are already some of the most abused pets. I think I would rather they went extinct than being subject to this kind of mistreatment. What do you think?